Hello friends, welcome to today's session of maths. Today we are going to look at percentages. So what exactly are percentages? In our daily lives we always use this term. I got a 20% discount on my shopping. So what exactly is this 20%? So percentages basically are a part whole ratio where whole is considered to be 100 parts. Percentage is useful in comparing fractions because the base is always considered to be 100. So let's look at some examples. You see half pizza here. So half a pizza, what does it mean? There are three ways in which we can write this. We can write it as a fraction. We can write it as 1 by 2. We can write it as a decimal, in which case we write it as 0.5. And the third way to write it is 50%. So there what we mean by 50% is 50% equal to 50 by 100, which means 1 by 2. So all these indicate the same number. So let's look at how to calculate percentages. So the basic rule here is x% of y is written as x into y divided by 100. So whenever you hear x%, what you do is you just consider this number x divided by 100. So x% of y is x by 100 into y. So that means xy divided by 100. So this is the basic rule. Let's look at some examples. It can get tricky, so pay attention. What is 25% of 120? So what do we have here? 25%. What is that? 25% means 25 divided by 100. 25% of 120 into 120. What do we get? This is 5. This is 6. Right? We're dividing this by 20. This 5 and 25 become 5. So we get 30. So 25% of 120 is 30. Second type of questions can be 7% is what? 7% of what is 21. So 7% of, let's say, x. 7% of x, that means 7 divided by 100 into x is 21. 7% of what is x? So we get x is equal to 21 into 100 divided by 7, which is 300. So 7% of 300 is 21. That means 21 is 7% of 300. The third type of questions can be 75 is what percentage of 125? Okay. So what is being asked here? What percentage? So let's say it is x%, right? So that means it is x by 100. X% of 125 is 75. This is the equation that we get. What percent? X%. So that means x by 100. X% of 125. That means x by 100 into 125. And we are given that 75 is x% of 125. So we equate that with 75. So what do we get here? X is equal to 75 into 100 divided by 125. Correct? So this is 3. 25 3s are 75. This is 5. This is 5. 100 by 5 is 20. So we get x is equal to 60. So that means 75 is 60% of 125. Let's now look at how to convert fractions, decimals and percentage from one form to another. So 1 by 4, convert 1 by 4 to percentage. Okay. The rule here is we want to convert it into a percentage, right? So we need to get the base as 100. So how do we convert 1 by 4 to something by 100? We have seen it in fractions, so we have to multiply the denominator by 25. So we'll also multiply the numerator by 25. So that means 1 by 4 is equal to 25 by 100. 25 by 100 is also written as 25%. Correct? So this is how we convert a fraction into percentages. 1 by 4 is equal to 1 by 1 into 25 divided by 4 into 25. We multiply by 4 to make the denominator 100. Once we get it 100, we get the percentage value. Convert decimal to a percentage. Let's see. Convert 0.56 to percentage. Okay. Now what do? First we convert decimal into fraction. So 0.56, how can we write it as a fraction? Then write it as 56 by 100, right? Okay. So now this is a fraction. How do we convert this fraction into percentage? We get the base 100. So base is already 100. Base is already 100. So 56 by 100 is what? 56%. Correct? So 0.56 is equal to 56 by 100, which is 56%. So this is how we convert decimals and fractions into percentages. The next concept is percentage change. This is a very important concept tested very frequently on the GRE. So what exactly is percentage change? Percentage change is calculated as change in value divided by original value into 100. So if something, for example, 100 becomes 80, so the change in value will be 20 divided by original value is 100 into 100. 100 it cancel. So this becomes 20% increase or decrease. If 100 becoming 80, so it is 20% decrease. Another way to look at it is deviation of new value by original value from 100%. So let's say if 100 becomes 80, what would that be? New value would be 80, old value will be, original value will be 100. This is how much? This is 80%, right? 80 by 100 is written as 80%. How far is 80% from 100%? It is 20% away, right? So this is 20% decrease that we are talking about. So let's see them in action. Let's solve some problems. There were 160 marbles in a box, but a magic wand decreased the number of marbles to 116. What is the percentage change here? Okay. So method 1, we'll look at this particular formula and get the answer. What do we need in this particular formula? We need change in value. So change in value is what? 160 becoming 116. So change in value is 160 minus 116, 44. Correct? Original value is what? Before the magic wand decrease the number of marbles, how many marbles we had? We had 160. So this is the original value. So let's put these values in this particular formula. What do we get? Change in value by original value divided by into hundreds. So change in value is 44 divided by 160 into 100. If you solve this, you will get 27.5. So we are saying that 27.5 is the percentage change, but 27.5 decrease. Let's look at method 2. New value. What do we need for method 2? We need new value and original value. So new value is what? 116. Old value is what? 160. Okay. So now we'll calculate this. New value divided by original value. This particular quantity will calculate. New value divided by original value. So it is 116 by 160 is 72.5. Deviation of this number from 100%. So how far is 100% from 72.5? So it is 100 minus 72.5, 27.5% away. Correct? That means again we get the same number. This particular decrease is 27.5%. There are two methods to calculate the percentage decrease. Both methods are the same. It is just the operation that we are doing is different, but they will ultimately give you the same results. So let's move on to this concept of percentage increase. Whenever you are dealing with percentage increase, always consider the original value as 100%. If we have 100%, your calculations become much easier. So if the quantity increases by say X%, then the new value will be, new quantity is going to be increase of X%. What is the original quantity? Original quantity is 100% plus X%. So the new quantity is going to be 100 plus X%. Correct? So what is 100 plus X? 100, sorry, what is 100 plus X%? 100 plus X divided by 100. This is 100 plus X%, right? So that means it means 1 plus X by 100. Correct? So that is the direct formula that we derive. New value after increase of X% is original value into 1 plus X% increase. So X divided by 100. Original value into 1 plus X by 100 is new value. This is the formula that we derive. Similarly, whenever you are dealing with percentage decrease, always consider the original value as 100% for the same reason. If the quantity decreases by X%, the new value is going to be decrease of X%. That means 100 minus X%. So it is going to be 100 minus X%. If you solve it further, you will get 100 minus X% is 100 minus X divided by 100, which is going to be 1 minus X divided by 100. So the new value, the formula for new value is going to be original value into 1 minus the percentage decrease, that is X, divided by 100. So this becomes the formula for percentage decrease. You will see that it is the same formula. If it is decrease, it is minus. If it is increase, it is plus. Let's move on to this concept of successive percentages. Let's look at this particular problem. A shopkeeper buys an item for $30 and usually sells it for $36. This year he increased the price by 20% and then put the item on sale with 20% discount. How much did he earn per item sold? Okay, interesting question. So the shopkeeper is doing something with his selling price. What does he do? He usually sells it at $36, correct? But this year he increased the price by 20%. So we have to increase. What would be the price after 20% increase? This 36 will become 36 into the formula that we saw is 1 plus 20% increase, 20 by 100, correct? So that means it becomes 36 into 1 plus 0.2, right? So it becomes 36 into 1.2. So you'll always see that any 20% increase you will have to multiply that particular number by 1.2. Any, let's say 20% decrease means 36 into 0.8, right? You see the connection? So that is a shortcut to this formula. Okay, so what we have here is he increased it by 20%. So that means we have to multiply by 1.2. Then he put the item on sale with 20% discount. That means he reduced the price by 20%. So if he reduces the price by 20%, that means we have to multiply by 0.8. Correct? So let's calculate this. How much do we get? We get 36 into 0.96. Correct? So you will see that earlier he was selling it for 36. Now he is selling for a number less than 36 because this number is less than 1. Right? So that means he is making less profit this year. Correct? Okay, so our question is how much did he earn per item sold? So he sold it for 36 into 0.96 and got it himself for $30. So this difference is 34.56. If you calculate, you will get this number as 34.56 minus 30 is equal to 4.56. So he's making only $4.56 on every item sold. Let's quickly review this. So usual selling price is $36. Selling price this year is 36 into 20% increase, that is 36 into 1.2, and on top of that 20% decrease. You have to multiply all the successive percentages together. So 36 into 1.2 into 0.8 is 34.56. This is the selling price. So 34.56 minus 30 is equal to 4.56. So he makes $4.56 on every item sold. So let's move on to simple interest. On the GRE, you will see a lot of problems related to compound interest and simple interest, and we are going to cover these topics under percentages. So you must be knowing that it costs money to borrow money. So if you go to a bank and say lend me $100, the bank will give you a loan of $100, and when you pay it back after a year, you will have to pay more than $100. So you will have to pay, let's say, $105. So there is an additional amount that you are paying to the bank, and that is called interest. The cost of borrowing is called interest. And what is interest rate? Interest rate is a percentage rate bank charges you for borrowing that amount. For example, Sue wants to borrow $1,000. The bank gives her loan with 10% interest. So every loan arrangement will come with a rate of interest. So that means if the rate of interest is 10%, Sue will have to pay additional 10% for using that particular amount for a year. So to borrow 1,000 for a year, Sue has to pay back 1,000 into 10%, $100 as an interest. And how much does she have to pay to the bank at the end of 1 year? $100 as interest, and obviously she has to return her $1,000 as principal. So ultimately she will have to pay $1,100 to the bank. So let's look at how simple interest works for more than a year. If Sue borrowed the money for, let's say, 5 years, to borrow for the first year, to borrow 1,000, $100 is going to be the interest. For the second year, there's going to be another interest of $100. So all the 5 years she'll end up paying total interest of $500, and her principal will remain the same, $1,000. So ultimately she will end up paying $1,500. Simple interest, the formula is principal into rate into duration. So there are some things you need to remember when applying this formula. The first thing is the rate should correspond to duration. If the rate is 10% annual, so the duration will have to be in years. If the rate is, say, 5% monthly, then the duration will have to be months, right? And the formula gives interest, not the payback amount. The payback amount will be the interest amount obtained by principal into rate into duration plus the principal amount. So let's look at this example. Jack borrowed $2,000 for 3 years at 7% interest rate. How much interest is that? Very simple case. We are going to use this formula. Simple interest is equal to principal, which is $2,000, into rate, which is 7%, into duration, which is 3 years. Now we'll see that 7% is the annual rate and we are quoting duration in years. So we don't have to worry about balancing the rate and duration. They have to be corresponding to the same period. So this is a very straightforward case. Simple interest is equal to principal into rate into duration. So we get 2000 into 7%, which is 0.07, into 3 is equal to 420. So simple interest is 420 and the payback amount is going to be principal plus interest is going to be 2000 as principal and 420 as interest, 2420. Let's look at compound interest. Now this is very interesting. Let's say the bank says, I'll give you loan for more than a year, but what you have to do is you have to return my money back at the end of the first year, and I'll loan it back to you, right? So the bank says, return my money at the end of the year and I will loan it back to you. In that case, what is going to happen? The new principal for the second year is going to be a greater amount, right? Because that new principal will also include the interest that you paid in the first year. So for example, Sue wants to borrow $1,000. The bank gives her loan 10% compounded interest. So it is similar to what we just saw in simple interest, but it is going to be compounded. So what does it mean? To borrow $1,000 for a year, Sue has to pay back $1,100, $1,000 as principal and $100 at interest. But to borrow it for the second year, what she has to do? She gives it back to the bank and the bank lends it again to her. So the new principal now becomes 1100. In simple interest, the principal remains the same, whereas in compounded interest, the principal changes every year. So the principal is going to increase every year. So the interest that you pay in compound interest is going to be much higher than the interest that you pay in simple interest. So let's look at how compounded interest works for more than a year. The principal amount will keep changing every year, right? So let's say the principal for the second year is going to be principal for the first year plus the first year's interest. So let's look at this. So let's say $1,000 Sue borrows with 10%. This is going to be the interest. At the end of her first year, she pays back $1,100 to the bank. This much is fairly simple. The bank now takes this as the principal for second year, on top of which the second year interest will be 10%, which is 110. So at the end of second year, Sue has to pay back 1100 plus 110, which is 1250. 1250 acts as the principal amount for third year, the interest of which at rate of 10% is going to be $121. So at the end of third year, Sue has to pay the bank 1331, which is 1210 plus 121. So you will see that this interest amount is rising every year, 100, 110, 121. Also the principal amount is increasing every year. That is because every subsequent year the principal includes the interest paid for the previous year, right? So for 5 years, Sue will have to pay back how much? This is where the concept of successive percentages comes in. So for 5 years, for first year, Sue has to pay back this is for first year, right? Now this acts as the principal for second year, on top of which she has to pay additional 10%. So this acts as the principal for, this together acts as principal for the second year. So that way we continued it for 5 years, and this is the amount that she has to pay back at the end of her 5 years. So it is successive percentages. Let's look at the formula for compound interest. Payback amount is equal to principal into 1 plus rate bracket raised to duration. Two things you have to remember. Rate should correspond to duration. If the rate is given annual rate, the duration has to be in years. If rate is given monthly rate, the duration has to be in months. So they have to correspond to the same period. The second thing you have to remember, the formula gives payback amount, not interest. So unlike the formula in simple interest, the formula actually gave you the interest amount. Here the formula is giving the payback amount. So even if they look similar, the equations are giving two different quantities. So please keep in mind that for formula for compound interest is going to give you payback amount, whereas the formula for simple interest is going to give you simple interest. So let's look at an example. If you invest $10,000 for 10 years at 8% compound interest rate, this will be mentioned in your problems. So you don't have to worry about whether it is going to be compound interest or simple interest. That will be mentioned. So this is a compound interest problem. If you invest $10,000 for 10 years at 8% compound interest, how much will you get back after 10 years? So they are asking you what is going to be a maturity amount of this investment, right? So that maturity amount is going to be payback amount. They are not asking about how much interest you will earn. They are asking about how much will you get back. So we have to use this payback amount formula. So the payback amount would be principal, which is $10,000, into 1 plus rate. Rate is going to be what? 8%. So 8% is 0.08 raised to 10. Why 10? Because we are looking for a period of 10 years. So if you calculate this, you will get this particular number. So the payback amount, which is the maturity amount of this investment, is 21,589 and 25 cents. Let's look at another example. If Alan takes out $1,000 loan for 12 months, okay, now it is months, okay, so you have to be careful about the rate. The rate also has to be in months. If Alan takes out $1,000 for 12 months and it says 1% per month, okay, how much does he pay back? So it is compounded monthly. This is called compounded monthly. So this is compounded monthly. And how many months he has got the loan for? 12 months. So that is the duration. What is the rate? 1%. What is the principal? $1,000. So we'll simply apply this formula. Payback amount is equal to principal 1,000 into 1 plus the rate. The rate is 1%, which is 0.01, raised to 12 months, which is the duration of lending. So this particular amount comes out to be 1126.86. Sorry, 11.26.83. So this is how we look at compound interest formula. You have to remember this formula, so take some time and try to memorize this. So let's move on to the practice problems. You can pause this video and see if you can solve this particular problem. The problem says the price of X increased by 40%, decreased by 50%, and finally increased by 60%. What was the net percentage increase or decrease in the price of X? So fairly simple. This is successive percentages. Let's say the price was 100x. Let's say the price was 100x. Okay, we have already seen in one of the earlier slides that you always take the base as 100 or 100x. So after 40% increase, it's going to be 1.4 into 100x, or simply it is going to be 140x, right? After that we have a decrease of 50%. So that means it is now going to be, decrease of 50% is going to be 70x. So that means 140 into 0.5x, right? 170. Finally increased by 60%. So this 70x is increased by 60%. So it is 70 into 1.6x. So 70 into 1.6 is going to be 112x. So it's an increase of how much? Increase of 12%. Let's move on to the next problem. The price of oil in a state has increased by 20%. By what percentage would the consumption be reduced to avoid any increase in total expenditure? You can pause and try to solve it yourself. Okay, let's look at the fundamental relationship between the price of oil and the consumption. So the formula we can use here is, it's pretty common sense. Expenditure is going to be price into consumption, right? So let's say if the price is $1 and I consume 5 units, so it's going to be $1 into 5. My total expenditure is going to be $5 that way. So now what it is saying is, let's say the price, we know that the increase in price is 25%, right? So this is, let's say, old scenario, this is new scenario. Okay, so we'll come up with some numbers to fit in these scenarios. So the price, what was the earlier price? Earlier price of, let's say, 100x. What is the new price? The new price is, it has increased by 25%, so it's going to be 125x, right? Okay. Consumption, let's say this is consumption 1, let's say this is consumption 2. Correct? And the expenditure is E1, here let it be E2. But we know that in both the scenario, what are we trying to seek? We are trying to seek the same expenditure. The total expenditure should not change. So that means E1 and E2 are same. Correct? So let's equate these two now. So we get E1 equal to E2. So we get 100x into C1 is equal to 125x into C2. X and X will get cancelled. So we can somehow come with the ratio of C1 and C2. And what is being asked in the question? The percentage increase or decrease in consumption, right? So somehow we need to find out C1, ratio of C1 and C2. So let's find it out. C1 by C2 is going to be equal to 125 by 100. Correct? So that means it is going to be C1 is equal to 1.25 of C2. That means the consumption has to be reduced. If C1 is greater than C2, the consumption has to be reduced. And the consumption will have to be reduced by how much? Is it 25%? No, it is not 25%. This is the tricky part. The consumption will have to be reduced. If you want to find out by how much the consumption has to be reduced, we'll have to find out C2 by C1 and not C1 by C2. That is because C1 is the base quantity. We are trying to find out consumption, how much the consumption has changed. So new value divided by old value. So we'll have to find out C2 by C1. So how much would C2 by C1 come? So it's going to be 100 by 125. Correct? So that is going to be equal to 100 by 125. That is going to be, let's divide it by 25. It's going to be 4. This is going to be 5. So 4 by 5 means 0.8 means 80%. So that means the new consumption C2 has to be 80% of C1. If we have the new consumption equal to 80% of C1, we'll end up getting the same expenditure. Right? So quickly recap. We know that the expenditure is going to be the same. So we equate both these E1 and E2. E1 is 100x into C1 and E2 is 125x into C2. So we'll find out what ratio we need. Earlier we found out C1 by C2, but then that doesn't give us the answer. So we found out C2 by C1. And why do we do that? Why C2 by C1? Why doesn't C1 by C2 give us the answer? Because we always look for new quantity divided by old quantity. So new quantity is C2, old quantity is C1. So we look for C2 by C1. So C2 by C1 is 8.8, which is 80%. So that means C2 is equal to 80% of C1. Let's move to the third problem. You can pause the video and see if you can solve this. Due to 25% increase in price, 5 gallons lesser oil comes for $100. Okay. What was the original price of the gas? What was the original price of oil per gallon? Okay, so let's say the original price is X. Okay. Always draw this table, new and old. This is old, this is new. This is price. Price is equal to X. Right? What is the new price? Due to 25% increase in price. So this is going to be 1.25x. Correct? Okay. So we are done with price. 5 gallons lesser oil comes for $100. Let's say oil that can be bought with $100. How much oil, if the price is X, how much oil can we buy? in $100. Let's say the price is $10. So how much oil can we buy? We can buy 100 by 10 gallons. Let's say the price is $20. How many gallons can we buy? We can buy 100 by 25 gallons. So basically the formula here is 100 by X. So if the price is X per gallon, in $100 we can buy 100 by X gallons. Correct? Here how much can we buy in $100? Here we can buy 100 divided by the price is 1.25x. Correct? Now the question says that 5 gallons lesser oil comes for $100. So that means, see, the price has increased. That means the quantity obviously will decrease. That means we are going to have this relationship. So 100 by X is going to be more than 100 by 1.25x, right? So what is the difference? The difference is $5. Sorry, 5 gallons. So the new quantity, this is what I get now, this which is less than what I used to get. This quantity plus 5 gallons is equal to 100 divided by X, right? So let's solve for this now. How do we go about solving this? So we'll multiply everything by 1.25x, let's say. Okay, so what do we get? 100 plus 5 into 1.25x is equal to 100 into 1.25. This x and x will get cancelled here. Correct? So what we get is 100 plus, what is 5 into 1.25? So it's going to be 6.25. Correct? So going to be 6.25 x is equal to 125. So that means 6.25 x is equal to, this 100 goes here, it becomes minus 100. 6.25 x is equal to 25. So x is equal to 25 by 6.25, it is going to be 4. Correct? X is equal to 4. So what was the original price of oil per gallon? It was $4. So old price was $4. New price would be increase of 25%. So increase of 25% is $4 will become $5, right? How much gas could I buy for $100? I could buy 20 gallons. Sorry, I could buy 25 gallons. So it is 100 by 5 is 20, 4 by is 25. Now I can buy 100 by 5, which is 20 gallons. So 5 gallons of oil, less oil I am able to buy because of the price increase. So this scenario fits in, these numbers are correct. So that means our answer has to be correct. So answer is the price of gallon, price of oil was $4 per gallon. So let's move to this question. You can pause the video and give it a try. The question is, if 20% of 50% of x is equal to 40% of y, what percent of x is y? Okay, so let's look at this. 20% of 50% of x, right? So we are talking about 20% of 50% of x, right? So this is 50% of x and this is 20% of 50% of x. So 20% of 50% of x is equal to 40% of y. This is the equation that we get. So let's simplify this. 0.2 into 0.5 is going to be 0.1. 0.1 of x is equal to 0.4 of y. That means x is equal to 4y. Pretty basic. X is equal to 4y. Okay. Now what is the question? What percent of x is y? So that means, let's say y is k percent of x. That means y is k percent of x, right? And let's substitute x is equal to 4y here. So we get y is equal to k into 4y divided by 100, correct? So this y and this y gets cancelled. So what we get is k is equal to 100 by 4 is equal to 25. So we are saying that y is equal to 25% of x. Now let's take two numbers such that one number is 25% of the other number. So let's say x is equal to 100 and 25% of x, y is going to be 25% of x, which is going to be 25% of 100 is 25, right? Let's see if this holds true. 20% of 50% of x is equal to 40% of y. So what is 50% of x? 50% of x is going to be 50. What is going to be 20% of 50% of x? Is going to be 20% of 50, which is going to be 10. So on one side we have 10. On the other side we have 40% of y. So what is 40% of y? 40% of y is 0.4 into 25, correct? So which is 10. So we'll see that 40% of y is same as 20% of 50% of x. That means our solution is correct. The answer is y is 25% of x. Let's look at this one now. Shopkeepers A and B each earned a revenue of $10,000. If A earned 25% profit on selling price and B earned 25% profit on cost price, who earned more profit and by how much? Let's make a table first. A and B, right? Let's say this is their sales. Both of them sold, or sales or revenue. So both of them had a revenue of $10,000. Okay. If A earned 25% profit on selling price, let's say this is their cost, this is their profit. So what do we have? A earned 25% profit on selling price. So profit of A, this is profit of B, this is cost of A, this is cost of B. So what do we have? A earned 25% profit on selling price. So that means profit of A is 25% of selling price of A, which is $10,000, right? B earned a profit of 25% on cost price. So that means his profit was 25% of cost price. So who earned more profit and by how much? Right? Now look at this. This is fairly straightforward to understand, but look at this. So we have profit, an interrelation between profit and cost. But we also know that profit of B plus the cost is going to be the sales of B, which is going to be $10,000, right? So here, by adding this $10,000, or rather by equating the sum of PB and C to $10,000, we'll get another equation. So what do we get? That equation is going to be 0.25 C plus C is equal to 10,000. So that means 1.25 C is equal to 10,000. So C is going to be $8,000, right? 10,000 divided by 1.25 is going to be 8,000. So cost for C, cost is this is CB we are talking about. So cost is $8,000. 1, 2, 3. How much did he earn? So he made a profit of $2,000. 8,000 plus 2,000 is 10,000, right? And what is PA? PA we already know it is 25% of 10,000. So he made a profit of 2,500. So that means his cost must have been 7,500. Right? Now we have all the numbers in the table. The question is who earned more profit and by how much? So A earned more profit. 2,500 is greater than 2,000. A earned 2,500 in profit and he earned $500 more profit than B. Let's move to this problem now. You can pause the video and see if you can solve this. Okay. If 1200 is increased by 15% and then decreased by X%, it yields 966. What is x? Okay, fairly straightforward. We have the number 1200 is increased by 15%, so that means 1200 into 1.15, correct? And then decreased by x percent. So let's say we are multiplying by decrease by x percent, means it becomes 100 minus x divided by 100, correct? 100 minus x divided by 100, decreased by x percent, it gives us 966. So all we have to do is to find out 100 by x divided by 100, which is 966 divided by 1200 into 1.15. Rather, 100 by x is equal to 966 into 100 by 1200 into 1.15, correct? This is 100 minus x, and then x is going to be 100 minus 96600 divided by 1200 into 1.15. So when you solve this, what you get is 30%. So that means the value of x is 30%. Let's look at this. Let's see if that is correct. 1200 increased by 15%. So we're talking about 1200 into 1.15, and then decreased by x percent. So decreased by 30% means we are talking about multiplying by 0.7. So if you calculate this, we are going to get 966. So let's move on to this problem. This is a quantitative comparison problem. You can give it a try. The information we have is that y is equal to x percent of x. How can we write it? We can write it as y is equal to x percent of x. So that means x square is equal to 100y. This is what we get from the given statement. So let's put some values. We are supposed to compare the value of x and y, and we really don't know much about x and y except that this relationship exists. So let's put some values for x and get values of y, and then we'll see whether we are able to compare x and y. So let's say x is equal to 100. I am choosing x is equal to 100 because then it is easy to for this 100 to get cancelled. So x is equal to 100. So what do we get? Y is equal to x square by 100 is equal to 100 into 100 by 100. So y is also equal to 100. So this case we saw that x is equal to y. Both are 100. Right? So let's put some value of x which is little less than 100. So let's say x is equal to 90. Right? For calculation sake, I am taking multiples of 10, but it really doesn't matter. So y is equal to x square by 100. So 90 into 90 divided by 100. What do we get? This gets cancelled. So we get y is equal to 81. Okay, so x is equal to 90, y is equal to 81. So y is less than x. Let's look at some value little greater than 100. So let's say x is equal to 125. So we get y is equal to 125 into 125 divided by 100. Correct? Now you will see that this 125 into 125, or for that matter any value that you take, divided by 100, this is always going to be greater than 100. Correct? Because this number itself is going to give you 1 point something, and then 1 point something multiplied by a positive number. So this number is always going to give you a value greater than 100. That means in this case y is going to be greater than x. Correct? So we have, without without relying on any other information, we come up with three cases where the same equation holds true, but we are not able to answer whether x is greater or y is greater, because depending on the values, x and y can exhibit all three relationships. So we say that this problem cannot be solved. Let's move to this problem. You can pause the video and see if you can do it. Lori has $800 less invested at 8% than at 6%. Okay, that means Lori has two investments. One investment is at 8%, one other investment is at 6%, and the investment at 8% is 800 less than the investment at 6%. Okay, her annual income from the smaller investment is only $32 less than the investment from the larger investment. Okay, how much has she invested in each rate? So let's say we have this 8% investment, we have this 6% investment. Okay, this is the investment value. Let's say 8% is the smaller investment, right? 800 less invested at 8%. So let's say this is a smaller investment, S. The larger investment is S plus 800. Correct? This is given. And what is going to be the interest rate? We are talking about annual income, right? So we are only considering the first year. So we get some income here which is only 32 smaller than this income. So what is going to be the income here? This is going to be P and R, right? The formula for simple interest. They haven't mentioned anything about compounding, so it is simple interest. So we know that I is equal to P and R, correct? What is going to be N? N is the period, which is 1 year. P is the principal, which is S or S plus 800, and R is the respective rate of each investment. So let's look at this. The smaller investment is going to yield a return of S P into 1 year into 8%. The big investment is going to give you a return of principal, which is S plus 800 into 1 into 0.06 and plus $32, because this is minus $32. This is minus $32. Correct? So let's solve this equation now. So let's multiply everything by 100 first. So we get rid of these decimals. So what do we get? 8s is equal to 6 into s plus 800 minus 3200, right? So this is 8s is equal to 6s plus 4800 minus 3200. That means 2s is equal to 1600. So that means s is equal to $800. Straightforward. That means let's now put these value in the table. So what we get is the principal amount is here 800. Here it is going to be 800 plus 800 is 1600. Right? Let's calculate the interest. It's going to be 800 into 8%. Correct? So it's going to be $64. Here it is going to be 1600 into 6%. So 1600 into 6% is going to be $96. What is the difference between the two? $32, right? And which one is smaller? The smaller investment is smaller. So all these numbers fit into this given scenario, and that is why our answer is correct. And the answer is the smaller investment is 800 and the bigger investment is $1600. Let's move to this problem. You can pause the video and give it a try. The Simpsons borrowed $1100 from the bank. Part of the loan was at 9% interest and the remainder was 7.5%. the yearly interest on each sum was the same. Okay, and we are supposed to find out, or rather we are supposed to compare loan amount with higher rate and loan amount with lower rate. Okay, so let's say 1100 he borrowed. Let's say he borrowed X amount with 7.5% and the remaining amount at 9%. What is the remaining amount? In total he borrowed what? 1100, right? So this remaining amount is going to be 1100 minus X. Correct? So now we have P, we have R, we have N, as in both cases the duration is same anyway. So we have this table filled up, and the additional thing we know, the yearly interest on each sum was the same. So that means P and R, P into N into R 0.075, P and R is equal to P and R of the other investment also. So P and R 1100 minus X, P, N is 1 and R is 9%, 0.09. Correct? So let's multiply by 1000 because we have 0.075 here. Multiply by 1000, so we get X 75X is equal to 1100 minus X into 90. Correct? So 1100 minus X, 1100 minus X is going to be 75X by 90, which is equal to, if you divide by 15, what do we get? We get 5 here, we get 6 here. So 1100 minus X is equal to 5X by 6. So that means 6600 minus 6X is equal to 5X. So X is going to be 600. Correct? So here what we get is 11x is equal to 6600. So X is going to be 600. So let's put it, see if this numbers make sense. So let's look P and R. P is going to be 600 in one investment with 7.5%. The other investment is going to be $500 because both of them have to add up to 1100. So other investment $500 for 1 year with 9%. Let's see, 600 into 7.5%, it is going to give you $45. 500 at 9% is also going to give you $45 as interest. So both these values match up. That means these numbers fit in the given scenario, and that is why the answer is correct. The answer is the okay. This is a quantitative comparison. So we'll have to see which one is greater. So this X is greater than 1100X. So loan with higher interest rate, that is this amount, is the smaller one, right? So answer is going to be B. Loan with lower interest rate is higher. Answer is going to be B. Let's move to this problem. You can pause the video and give it a try. Okay, this is very straightforward problem. A diamond costs $4,900. If its price has consistently increased at annual rate of 5%, how much was it worth 12 years ago? Okay, so let's say it was 12 years ago, it was X dollars, the price. Okay, so what is it going to be 11 years ago? Every year it has been increasing by annual rate of 5%, right? So that means it is going to be 1.05 X 11 years ago. 10 years ago, it is going to be 1.05 into 1.05 X. Correct? 9 years ago, it is going to be 1.05 raised to 3 times X. So that means what is going to be today's price? After 12 years, it is going to be 1.05 raised to 12 original price into original price is equal to today's price. What is today's price? We have 4900 as today's price. Now all we have to do is get the value of this particular expression, and if you look at it, the value you will get is 2728.50. this is the amount. And how do we ensure that this is the correct one? All we have to do is put it back in this equation. 28.5 into 1.05 raised to 12, you should get 4900, and you will get 4900. So this is the answer. The diamond was worth $28.5 12 years ago. Let's look at this one now. You can pause the video and give it a try. Money invested at X% compounded annually. Okay, so this is compounded interest. Money invested at X% compounded annually doubles in value in approximately every 72 by X years. Okay, that means if it is invested at 8%, 72 by 8 is equal to 9. So it will double in 9 years. This is what it is saying. Okay, if $1,500 was invested at a rate of 8% compounded annually, what will it be its approximate worth in 27 years? Okay, so if we are invested in 8 years, if we have invested it at 8%, it will take 9 years to double, correct? And we are asked how much, to what level it will go after 27 years. So because it is compounded annually anyway, at the end of every year we are reinvesting it. So at the end of 9th year also we reinvest it. So let's say today $1,500 are invested. At the end of 9 years it doubles, so it is going to be $3,000. We put it back, it becomes $3,000. At the end of another 9 years, that means total 18 years, it is going to be $6,000. We reinvested. At the end of another 18 years, which is total 27 years, it is going to be $1,200. Correct? So the answer is, it's going to be $1,200. It is going to increase. It's going to increase. No, this is 12, not 1,200. This is 12,000. So it is going to increase from 1,500 to 12,000. It is going to increase by 8 times. That is because in 27 years there are 3 full 9 years, and every 9 years it doubles. So we are talking about 2 raised to 3 is equal to 8. It is going to become 8 times. Okay. So thanks for watching. I hope you learned a good deal about percentages in this session, and I look forward to meeting you in the next session. Thank you.